On November 1, 2016, Hillary and Bill Clinton and their entourage of assistants effected a civilian coup. In contrast to the usual concept of a coup where the military is involved and takes over the White House and communication centers, very much like the scenarios you see in a movie, this coup was done silently and very effectively through two methods: corruption and co-optation. The Clintons have been involved in co-opting our White House, our judiciary, our CIA, our Federal Bureau of Investigation, our Attorney General, Loretta Lynch, and our Director of the FBI, James Comey, for some time now. What they've done is to make sure that they were part and parcel of a group of people who were interrelated through political cronyism. However, in order to stop this coup, we in the intelligence community and others involved have informally gotten together, and with their permission, I am beginning to announce that we've initiated a counter coup through Julian Assange and WikiLeaks. What has happened in effect when Comey had to open up the case of Hillary Clinton and discuss the emails that were involved with the Anthony Weiner case, it was not the case itself that was as important as the fact that this was the entree for many of us in the counter coup to say to the administration, we have your number. Not only do we have your number, we're going to stop you from making Hillary the President of the United States. And at the same time, we will convict and indict the President of the United States, Loretta Lynch, and many others who were involved in the cover-up of the massive corruption that occurred under the Clinton Foundation. Now, in both cases, their coup was silent, and our counter-coup was silent, and it was all transgressed or occurred on the internet. And this is probably the first time in the history of any country where a coup was initiated through the internet and a counter-coup was initiated through the internet. I am just a small part of something far bigger than myself. It was the brave men and women who were in the FBI, the CIA, the Director of Intelligence, the military intelligence, and men and women in 15 other intelligence organizations who were sick and tired of seeing this corruption in the White House, in the Justice Department, and in the intelligence system. And we decided that there was something we had to do in order to save the Republic. So we initiated a counter-coup through Julian Assange, who's been very brave and really quite formidable in his ability to come forth and provide all the necessary emails that we gave to him in order to undermine Hillary and Bill Clinton. Again, America, we're going through a major, major transition and, quite frankly, a second American Revolution. We do not have guns, we do not have weapons, we do not intend to kill anybody, we do not intend to harm anybody. But we, the American public, and those of us who serve as veterans and in the intelligence service like myself, will stop the Clintons from assuming power that they don't deserve. At the same time, we will make certain that Obama leaves without any trail of a pardon or any other act of treason. In effect, we want a peaceful transition in this great American Republic. I bring you this news, and I want you to understand what has happened. A moment of history is occurring right now in front of us.
Why Hillary Clinton this time around?
Well, there's probably no one who's ever run for the presidency that's more qualified than Hillary Clinton. She is the most experienced and the best qualified.
She's by far the best qualified person in America.
And by the way, thoroughly vetted.
She doesn't have to answer any questions right now.
She has scrubbed the server, and their emails we'll never see.
She was supposed to have her emails separate to begin with, and then she wiped the server clean.
How can you get answers from the ones that were scrubbed?
If there's nothing to hide, why do they always act? I don't think they are.
Conflict of interest concerns have surfaced around presidential candidate Hillary Clinton. Her nonprofit organization got millions of dollars from foreign donors. while she was Secretary of State.
The biggest individual donations came from Ukraine.
Wouldn't it at least be fair to look into it and ask these questions about whether or not the giving of foreign money to a foundation that belonged to that family in any way influenced the action that person took as Secretary of State?
The Clintons have made $150 million over the past decade.
Sidney Blumenthal appeared to be running State Department business.
Mr. Blumenthal's involvement was more wide-ranging and more complicated than previously known.
Helping Hillary Clinton in a capacity that nobody knew about.
He's basically the personification of a Clinton insider.
And in all kinds of ways that bring up some very big concerns.
Advising Secretary Clinton on Libya while he had business interests there.
Bottom line here, Blumenthal sent intelligence to an alternate personal email account while being paid by the Clinton Foundation.
Several Gulf states have been donating money to the Bill, Hillary, and Chelsea Foundation.
Tens and tens of millions of dollars from countries with atrocious human rights records.
Saudi Arabia, United Arab Emirates, Qatar, Kuwait, and Brunei.
She's taken money from countries that abuse the rights of women.
All those countries have been criticized by the State Department for violating women's rights.
Are they expecting something in return?
Name one country on this planet in which we have a better relationship with them now than we did in January 2009.
She was the Secretary of State.
Her handling of Benghazi.
Sidney Blumenthal.
She wiped the server clean.
And we will never see them.
They decide they're not going to play by the same rules.
She has to answer some very significant questions.
So let the conversation begin. I have a feeling it's going to be very interesting.
Tonight, less than 2 months after the FBI recommended no charges against Hillary Clinton,
we are expressing to justice our view that no charges are appropriate in this case.
the private notes of the FBI agents investigating her use of a private email server revealed, redacted, but unprecedented nonetheless, the notes lay out the probe and details Clinton's own interview with the law enforcement officials.
Although we did not find clear evidence that Secretary Clinton or her colleagues intended to violate laws governing the handling of classified information, there is evidence that they were extremely careless in their handling of very sensitive, highly classified information.
The documents reveal that Clinton told FBI agents she couldn't recall any training or guidance on the handling of sensitive information. Clinton said she relied on her aides to, quote, use their judgment when emailing her and could not recall anyone raising concerns about information sent to her private account. The notes also show that the FBI presented Clinton with copies of emails discussing the classified U.S. drone program. Clinton responded that she thought drone strike information classification, quote, depended on the context, noting it was a subject frequently in the press. Clinton was also asked about the markings on an email that denoted classified information.
I think it's possible that she didn't understand what a C meant when she saw it in the body of an email like that.
Clinton told the FBI she was unaware what the marking meant and questioned the classification.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm?
The public release comes after the FBI provided the documents to lawmakers. Some Republicans expressed outrage at the Justice Department's decision not to bring charges against the Democratic nominee.
We believe that you have set a precedent, and it's a dangerous one.
And in the wake of Clinton herself offering her clearest apology yet on the issue on CNN last month.
When I try to explain what happened, it can sound like I'm trying to excuse what I did, and there are no excuses. I want people to know that the decision to have a single email account was mine. I take responsibility for it. I've apologized for it. I would certainly do differently if I could.
In July, FBI Director Comey said his recommendation against charges stemmed from the fact that there is no precedent for charging someone under similar circumstances. But the scrutiny on the campaign trail hasn't let up.
The deleted emails, 33,000.
The Trump campaign quickly blasting out a statement saying the release provides further evidence of Clinton's, quote, tremendously bad judgment and dishonesty, adding Clinton's reckless conduct and dishonest attempts to avoid accountability show she cannot be trusted with the presidency. And Wolf, the Clinton campaign is saying they are pleased about this release, and with good reason. This information had been sent to lawmakers, and there was concern from Clinton advisors that it would be leaked out selectively. Still, there are serious problems that have been brought up by this issue, including the 39 times Hillary Clinton said she didn't recall specific issues when asked by FBI officials. And Wolf, also the idea that there were 13 individual devices that had access to Clinton's email account, most of which hadn't been recovered, Wolf. 2 of which had been destroyed by hammers, according to the FBI agent notes.
Hey everybody, it's Jake Tapper from CNN State of the Union and factcheck.org, and today we're going to take a look at comments Hillary Clinton made just a few days ago in which she was confronted with comments she had made on the campaign trail, repeatedly telling the American people that she had never sent or received any classified material on her private email server.
After a long investigation, FBI Director James Comey said none of those things that you told the American public were true.
Chris, that's not what I heard Director Comey say, and I thank you for giving me the opportunity to, in my view, clarify. Director Comey said that my answers were truthful and what I've said is consistent with what I have told the American people. That there were decisions discussed and made to classify retroactively certain of the emails.
Is that true? Did FBI Director James Comey testify that the repeated comments Hillary Clinton had made to the public about her private email server, quote, were truthful? No, that is not true. According to her campaign aides, what Hillary Clinton was referring to was Director Comey testifying, quote, we have no basis to conclude she lied to the FBI. But Clinton's comments to the FBI are different from what Chris Wallace was asking about, which were Clinton's comments to the American people. Congressman Trey Gowdy had asked Director Comey about a number of the comments Hillary Clinton had made to the American people, and here's how some of that went.
Secretary Clinton said there was nothing marked classified on her emails, either sent or received. Was that true?
That's not true. There were a small number of portion markings on, I think, 3 of the documents.
Secretary Clinton said, I did not email any classified material to anyone on my email. There is no classified material. Was that true?
There was classified material emailed.
Here's what we know about Hillary Clinton's emails. More than 2,000 of the 30,490 emails Clinton gave to the State Department in December 2014 did contain classified information. Now, most of it was classified retroactively, but 110 emails in 52 different email chains contained classified information that was classified at the time the emails were sent or received. 3 of the emails included classified markings, but they were not marked properly. Here's the bottom line. Although Comey did testify that many of the emails contained information that was classified only retroactively, he did say that some of the emails contained information that was classified at the time. And Hillary Clinton had repeatedly told the public that none of the emails contained information that was classified in any way. A reminder to all you politicians out there, you are perfectly entitled to your own opinions, not to your own facts. I'm Jake Tapper for CNN State of the Union and factcheck.org.
Clinton was asked about her claim in a pair of recent interviews that FBI Director James Comey said her public answers about her emails were truthful, a statement ruled false by fact-checkers.
I was pointing out in both of those instances that Director Comey had said that my answers in my FBI interview were truthful. That's really the bottom line here. I may have short-circuited it, and for that I will try to clarify, because I think Chris Wallace and I were probably talking past each other, because of course he could only talk to what I had told the FBI, and I appreciated that.
Clinton also addressed questions about her struggles with voters who do not see her as honest and trustworthy.
Every time I have done a job, people have counted on me and trusted me. I take it seriously. It doesn't make me feel good when people say those things, and I recognize that I have work to do.
As the Democratic nominee picked up another high-profile endorsement. In a New York Times op-ed today, former CIA Director Mike Morell said he'd be voting for Clinton in November.
Secretary Clinton, will you explain the email, Secretary Clinton?
I opted for convenience to use my personal email account, which was allowed by the State Department, because I thought it would be easier. I want those emails out. Nobody has a bigger interest in getting them released than I do. Everything I did was permitted. There was no law, there was no regulation, there was nothing that did not give me the full authority to decide how I was going to communicate. Now, I didn't have to turn over anything. I chose to turn over 55,000 pages because I wanted to go above and beyond what was expected of me. And I never sent nor received any information that was classified at the time it was sent. The position that I've taken from the very beginning is the same today as it was, months ago. I mean, in retrospect, what was supposed to be convenient has turned out to be anything but convenient. What, like with a cloth or something? Well, no. It clearly wasn't the best choice. I should have used two emails, one personal, one for work. And I take responsibility for that decision.
Hillary Clinton should have faced some sort of after Comey came out and talked about her private email server.
I think there should have been a full investigation. I think the American people are owed an explanation for what happened and why top secret information was put at risk, why the identity of secret agents were potentially put at risk.
Going back to these FBI notes being turned over to a congressional oversight committee, do you think that that oversight committee should open up an investigation into Mrs. Clinton's private email server?
Yes, I do, because we're talking about state secrets, and these are the highest level of state secrets that were put at risk when it's known that the protections for her email were extremely inadequate. And in fact, orders were being issued from her office to others in the Secretary of State Department to do the exact opposite of what she was doing. So certainly, if she wasn't aware that she was violating State Department rules, it raises real issues about her competency.
Carolina Republican Congressman Trey Gowdy. He was chairman of the House Select Committee on Benghazi, which first discovered that Clinton used a private email server. Good morning, Congressman.
Good morning. How are you?
Doing well. Congressman, explain why you are comfortable with Director Comey releasing word to Congress that there is this new wrinkle in the investigation involving Huma Abedin's emails before knowing if there's any there.
Well, I think there are two reasons. Number one, Allison, let's just concede being a police officer and a prosecutor is a lonely and tough job, and unusual facts make for some pretty tough conclusions. But he did tell Congress in July that the investigation had been completed, and he had determined that she didn't have specific intent to commit a crime. So I think he felt the need to supplement the record. Remember, John Koskinen is being investigated for potential impeachment for failing to supplement the record and update Congress. So I think, number one, you take him at his word that he wanted to supplement the record. But number two, let's assume arguendo that Secretary Clinton today were to say to a rally, all of this is in the rearview mirror. I've been investigated. All of my aides have been investigated. There's nothing here. Well, if Comey knows that there is potentially new information that may impact the investigation, then what she's saying is not true. So under the general theory that the public should be given the information and then they can sort it out, my guess is he wanted us to know that there was new, potentially relevant information.
Right, before knowing if it is relevant. I mean, you've heard lots of legal experts say that it just breaks with protocol, him coming forward before knowing if there's relevant information.
Yeah, I wish I had a nickel for every time I asked the media not to report the facts of one of my murder trials on the morning of jury selection, and they did it anyway under a theory that the public has a right to know. I wish the president had not prejudged the investigation when he did so. I wish Loretta Lynch had not met with Bill Clinton on the tarmac. So I wish a lot of things had not happened in this case. Again, this is an unusual fact pattern which leads to unusual conclusions.
Okay, so in terms of the public's right to know, do you share that same measure about whether or not the FBI should talk about any investigation they have into Donald Trump's campaign's ties to Russia?
Well, as a general rule, the Bureau does not confirm or deny the existence of an investigation, although that rule lately has been honored more in its breach. So if you want the Bureau to update the public about an investigation into Mr. Trump, then they're also going to need to update the public about the Clinton Foundation investigation, if one exists. Remember, there's a referral on Secretary Clinton's perjury. There's an allegation that she committed perjury.
Yeah.
There was a referral letter sent by Chairman Goodlatte and Chaffetz. They have not updated Congress. I don't view his letter as an update on the facts of the investigation. I view it as a notice document. I want you to know my previous testimony has changed. The matter is still open. That's how I viewed the letter.
Well, one of your colleagues on the House Oversight Committee says that you and your Republican colleagues are basically just accepting this double standard, that you do want the update on Hillary Clinton's emails, but you're not pressing the FBI for any update that could be, of course, wildly relevant to the presidential race if Donald Trump's campaign had some sort of connection to Russia.
Well, I'm sure my colleague on oversight was not referring to me, because maybe I'm a universe of one. I don't want an update on the status of the email investigation. I'm not entitled to an update on the status of the email investigation. I used to work for the Department of Justice. They should not be discussing the facts of an investigation until the investigation is over. Now, if my colleague meant that Comey should have kept it a secret, that they had potentially hundreds of thousands of new emails, I just find that interesting. A couple of months ago, they thought Jim Comey was the second coming of Christ, and a couple of months later, now they think that he should be investigated for violation of the Hatch Act. I don't like relativism, whether it exists on my side of the aisle or their side of the aisle. I think the same rules ought to apply. This is a very difficult, unusual fact pattern. But, Allison, it is difficult and unusual because of decisions made by people not named Jim Comey. I mean, Secretary Clinton is the reason you and I are having this conversation, not Jim Comey.
So, Congressman, if Hillary Clinton were to win the race a week from now, should the American public and voters expect years and years of more investigations and committee hearings into things that you believe are wrongdoing?
It depends. Congress does not have jurisdiction, and frankly, we are terrible at investigating potential crimes. But the legislative branch does have an obligation to provide oversight, and part of that oversight, frankly, includes the Department of Justice. I mean, the Department of Justice is funded by Congress, so we should provide oversight after things have happened, just like we should provide oversight over the CIA and the State Department. But it's not our job to investigate potential criminality. We're bad at it, and even if we found evidence of a crime, there's nothing we can do about it. That's an executive branch function. So it kind of depends upon the nature of the investigation and what our motive and intent and purpose is.
Let me ask you, there are several elements going on in this campaign, obviously, many of them upsetting to millions and millions of voters, but one of the things that goes unspoken of in large extent is Russian interference in the American political process. Would you care to rank in terms of priority Hillary Clinton's emails versus the clearly established Russian interference in our electoral process? Which is more important?
I heard the tail end of that question. I didn't hear the first of it. Are you asking me to decide which is more important, the content of the email or foreign interference in our elections?
Yes, sir.
Well, is it an option that they're both important, or do I have to pick between the two?
No, you can do whatever you choose to do, obviously. But I mean, which worries you, which concerns you more?
Both. I don't think I have to pick between the two.
No.
I think foreign interference in our election is terrible, and I think mishandling classified information is terrible, although Comey said she did not have a specific intent to violate the law. So, I mean, it's like asking me which one of my kids I love the most. They're both important. They both ought to be looked into, and it's not up to me to decide which is more deleterious to our republic.
Bobby, I want to move on, and I want to ask you about Secretary Clinton's reaction. Here's part of what she said on Friday night.
If they're going to be sending this kind of letter that is only
going originally to Republican members of the House, that they need to share whatever facts they claim to have with the American people.
Robbie, why would she say something that is so flatly untrue? I have a copy here. It's not very long. It's the letter that Comey sent to Congress. On the front page, it's got the 8 Republican chairmen of the committees. If you just turn it over, next page, you got the 8 top Democrats on the committee. Why would she say that it was just sent to the Republicans when, in fact, it was sent to the Republicans and Democrats?
You know, Chris, this has been really overhyped.
Well, she said it, I didn't.
We were all surprised by this letter. She looked at the front page, and as you just said yourself, on the front page of that memo, it lists those Republican chairs. Were the Democrats CC'd at the end of the letter? Absolutely. She looked at the front page of the letter. She has acknowledged, we all acknowledge, this was sent to everybody. Again, what we're concerned and disturbed by is that Director Comey sent a letter saying, we have some information. I don't know if it's significant. I don't know if it isn't. He didn't say where it came from. He didn't say what it was about. He didn't even say whether these emails were sent or received by Hillary Clinton. And furthermore, another hypothetical that's out there is that these are duplicates that have already been released. We need all the information, and Director
Robbie,
Comey needs to get it out.
I want to make one more point about this letter. You say it's hyped. Comey sent the letter about 1 p.m. Eastern Time on Friday. Your campaign chairman, John Podesta, put out a statement at 3:45 p.m. in which he made exactly the same charge, that this letter had been sent just to the Republicans, not to the Democrats. 3 hours and 15 minutes later, Hillary Clinton makes the same charge. This was a talking point of your campaign, and frankly, it was a dishonest talking point.
Chris, if your question is whether Democratic leaders were CC'd on that letter, the answer is absolutely yes. What's disturbing about this, again, is that a 3-paragraph letter with no information whatsoever about what the FBI is talking about was sent to the individuals named on the letter. It took Jason Chaffetz about, 15 seconds to leak that out to the press, and now all your interviews this morning have been full of hypotheticals and conjectures. Director Comey owes it to the American people, releasing this just a matter of days before the election, to provide all the information. That's what we're asking. Just get all of it out there, and the voters can judge for themselves. We think the voters actually want to hear about what these 2 candidates are going to do to make a difference in their lives, not more relitigating of this email. And we recognize that the director was under tremendous pressure from Donald Trump and Republican leaders.
And now he's under tremendous pressure from your side.